The Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development has met with retailers to discuss how the recent outbreak of avian flu is impacting them. And Minister Thoko Didiza joins us now to share what she heard and how the department plans to manage the impact. Minister, good evening to you and welcome to the program. Let's start with a snapshot of the impact tonight. We read some alarming figures around the culling of chickens, for example, 7.5 million chickens having to be culled. A big portion of the chicken supply in the country, around 30%, is what this represents. So it certainly sounds like it's been big. What's the latest?
Thank you very much. The figures that you have is the figures that SAPO has indicated to us, and also retailers yesterday when we were having an engagement with them, they did indicate that those are the figures that they've got from the people from whom they buy. And one of the issues they were reflecting is the possibility of shortage on table eggs in particular, not so much on chicken meat in the shelves. So we were looking at what may need to be done in the short term, medium as well as long term. In the short term, we've agreed that we will look at importation of table eggs, but also fertilized eggs so that it can allow us to go back into building our parent stock so that we can have our layers for the eggs in the market.
Tell me a little bit more about that, Minister, because as you say, the biggest concern is from retailers, particularly when it comes to egg production, where the impact seems to be the hardest. Would this be, an interim import allowance? Because we know the poultry industry in general in South Africa is under, so much pressure from what we would call dumping and so on. Just share with us how you envisage this importing of eggs in particularly coming into fruition.
Well, at the moment, there is no dumping of eggs, for instance. The Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister Patel, has actually put in place the instrument that will address the issue of dumping, particularly of chickens. So that matter has been dealt with. The instrument does not prevent importation of meat, particularly poultry, which is still happening to this day. It doesn't affect the industry that much. However, what we are looking at is where we can get the fast tracking of the permit system so that those retailers who would like to import quickly in order to complement what they have currently, they can do so as soon as is possible. But also for the producers of the poultry layers, particularly the egg layers, can be able to import fertilized eggs so that they can actually ensure that they build their parent stock.
Well, so these are some of the mitigation measures that you're sharing with us. The one thing we do know that the impact on an event like this, which is described as one of the worst in our recent history as far as South Africa goes, is on emerging farmers. And our business desk was chatting to us yesterday and just saying you need a one-time catastrophe to put those emerging farmers completely out of business. What support is the department offering them?
Well, let me indicate to you that the measures that are being put in place, apart from what I've just explained, it's also the containment of the disease so that it cannot spread further than what it has been. And that is why we are calling our farmers to really up their biosecurity measures so that they can protect their facilities from any form of infection. Secondly, we're working with the industry to look at possibilities of vaccines so that those who may want to vaccinate are able to access. We have currently 2 companies that have applied for registration of their vaccine in our jurisdiction, and we are evaluating those, and I'm sure in the coming week we'll be able to communicate with the industry on the outcomes of those evaluations.
So just to confirm, we don't have them right now, but they are in development and deployment.
We don't have them right now. The registration is what we are working on. Those can be imported in the jurisdictions where such vaccines are already available.
All right, so I'm sure that, I mean, that must be a concerning factor, right? Because this is about making sure that we can protect our further yield in terms of eggs and well, I'm not sure if it applies to the chickens themselves, but in terms of the supply of eggs.
Yes, as I indicate that what we are actually looking at with respect to the egg situation is to ensure that we quicken the process for importing eggs for consumption, which is table eggs. Also importing fertilized eggs that would actually assist in the breeding process of the egg layers.
We didn't quite answer, though, the concern, Minister, around the emerging farmers. What you're sharing is how you're going to make sure that in the market there is no shortage. These allowances around imports are what I would call safe eggs, then the provision of vaccines later down the road. But what is the conversation for emerging farmers and perhaps even the smaller retailers?
Well, I'm not sure when you ask what is the conversation, because smallholder farmers are part and part of the industry. So these conversations I'm talking about, last week when we actually had a discussion with SABC, for instance, that is an organization, umbrella organization that has got a lot of producers, both small and big farmers who are in the pork industry. It includes the concerns of all. Tomorrow we will actually be engaging with farmer organizations to further look at what is their view on some of these measures that are being put in place, so that there is common understanding on how we are addressing this issue from the farmers' point of view to the poultry organization and to the retailers.
All right, so I think then it's probably worth having that chat with you after you've spoken to them, sharing their direct concerns with you. Just a quick one for all of us here in South Africa who are still buying eggs. Are they safe to eat, South African homegrown eggs and poultry?
South African homegrown eggs are safe. The meat is also safe, because what we've done is to ensure that once we pick up a disease in a facility, we actually quarantine and control, nothing moves out of there. So we are certain that what is on our shelf is actually safe, and I would encourage South Africans not to panic that what is in the shelves may actually be contaminated. It is safe.
Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Thoko Didiza is the Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development Minister, just talking about some of the concerns that she had heard from the retailers around the avian flu outbreak. Definitely worth a follow-up in terms of the farmers themselves and how they're experiencing this crisis.